All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this afternoon EuroCham webinars on the Industrial 4.0. Thank you for your participations, of course, and to those participants who join us online, of course, and also thanks to our panelists who have been contributing to the organization of today's webinar. I think before I start, I would like to already mention that due to an unfortunate combination of circumstances, we were not able to organize a secure and more gender balanced panel for today's webinar session. But of course, we are aware of the situation and there caused some debate. But I would like to assure that as an organization, EuroCham, has attached great importance to the issue of gender balance. And of course, today webinars has greatly joined by a series of experts, and we thank you for your participations. And would like to also mention that in the coming weeks, we will looking to organize a dedicated session on the important role of women in the government industry. Thank you everyone for the transparent feedback on this. And we of course fully recognize the gender balance view is a must, and we look forward to do a better organization in this respect in the next time. So moving on to our agenda today, we will have a opening remarks from His Excellency Soem Nara. We'll also have a presentation from Mr. Niels Meijers and Mr. Pierre Rabotin from FingerTips, and later on my colleagues Mr. Masi Miliano will lead the discussion during the panel discussion. So without any further delay, may I please invite His Excellency Mr. Soem Nara, Under Secretary of State at the Ministry of Industry, Science and Technology Innovation, for his welcome and opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Today, I have a great honor on behalf of Excellencies Cadet Talented Jambrasit, Senior Minister, Minister of Industry, Science, Technology, and Innovation, MISTI, to deliver opening remark on this very important webinar on Government Industry 4.0 in Cambodia, which is organized by EuroCham Cambodia to discuss on policies, regulation framework of government sectors in relation to Industry 4.0 in Cambodia, especially on enhancing and boosting the awareness and knowledge related to Government Industry 4.0 in Cambodia. Taking these opportunities, I would like to express my thanks to EuroCham Cambodia for inviting me to this webinar and for ongoing cooperation with MISTI on various cooperation activities. I welcome all distinguished participants and thank for your valuable time to attend this online workshop. Also, my special thanks would extend to experts, moderators, presenters, and panelists, Dr. Daniel Schmücking, Country Director of CAS, Cambodia, Dr. Kenlu Chi Chien, Secretary General of GMAC, Dr. Cesare Sam, Director General of Institute of Digital Research and Innovation, IDRI, CAT, Mr. Joseph Telfer, co-founder, managing partners at DataZoo Academies and Mekong Big Data, Mr. Pierre Rabotin, Head of Marketing, FingerTip, Mr. Niels Meijers, Business Development Managers, FingerTips, Mr. Massimiliano Propiano, Sustainability and Government Expert. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, Cambodia is working toward the adoption of Industry 4.0 solution, which can help increase agilities and flexibilities, boosting business resilience. However, in the progress toward Industry 4.0, Cambodia is facing specific challenges such as lack of human resources, institutional capacity buildings, and legal frameworks. To address these challenges, Cambodia has issued many policies and take out some action, such as strengthening capacity in science, technology, and innovation through the implementations of the National Policy on Science, Technology, and Innovation 2020-2030, National Science Technology Master Plan, Science Technology Roadmap 2030, creating a more favorable ecosystem for digital transformation as stipulated in the rectangular strategy phase 4, the National Strategic Development Plan 2019-2023, the Industrial Development Policy 2015-2025, Cambodia Digital Economy and Society Policy Framework 2021-2035 set out a long-term vision to build a vibrant digital economy and societies by laying the foundations for promoting digital adoption and transformation in all sectors of the society, the state, citizen, and businesses to promote new economic growth and improve social welfare. Cambodian Digital Government Policy 2022-2035, setting up to create a more conducive environment for the development of the digital socio-economic landscape. It aims to establish a smart government underpinned by the interoperable ecosystem of digital infrastructures and technologies. These policy measures would contribute to address the challenges facing by manufacturing sectors, including garment, footwear, and travel goods sectors for introducing 4IR technologies. Taking these opportunities, I would like to share some of challenges that had been found in surveys which was conducted by UNIDO ILOs on the garment, footwear, travel goods sectors in Cambodia recently regarding to the interactions of 4IR that Cambodian GFT factories are highly dependent on overseas technical experts to install most of the new technologies they require on the production line or in the back office. This also reflects the shortage of trained engineering and technical personnel in Cambodia. The return on investment of production line equipment, especially sewing equipment, remain exceptionally long, shortening the return of investment by rising prices may make finished goods uncompetitive with similar goods produced manually. The high price of automation for IR technologies in GFT sectors weighs heavily on investment decisions. Cambodian producers, including large ones, are lagging in their investment in advanced EMPs, which is the foundation for true Industry 4.0. The skill gap in Cambodia is obviously a significant impediment to more rapid introductions of Industry 4.0 technologies and automation, both on the production lines and in the back office of factories. Moreover, the cost of electricity remains a significant external negative factor as more automated technologies is likely to demand even more electricity. Sewing automation in apparel production is expensive technologies, meaning that either the return on investment of the equipment needs to be stretched over long periods, or the unit price of products must be raised well above the cost of equivalent garment produced manually to shorten the return on investment. Therefore, the investment decision, however, remain driven by the trade-off between the return on investment of complex automation and the cost of labor, especially in garment and travel goods sector. To overcome some of these challenges, as far as GFT sector is concerned, MISTI has intended to promote 4IRs in this sector through the implementation of new laws on investment of the Kingdom of Cambodia. In this law, there are 19 investment sectors and activities entitled to basic investment incentive to be granted, including 4IRs and innovative technology development for enhancing productivities and competitiveness. In addition to the basic incentives, the deduction of 150% from tax base for any activity such as human resources development through the provisions of vocational training and skills development to Cambodian workers and employees, research, development and innovation, and upgrade of machineries to serve the production lines, among others. So it's up to the decision of the investor to take advantage of this investment law to integrate 4IR and innovative technologies in their government investment projects for enhanced productivities and competitiveness. With this, I believe that Industry 4.0 will gradually be integrated in Cambodian government sector for enhance its productivity and competitiveness. I am sure that Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, will have a fruitful discussion and learn more from our presenters, panelists on the topic, is Cambodia ready for government Industry 4.0? Last but not least, I would like to express my thanks for your participation in the webinars. And I would also like to wish Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, have a fruitful result from these webinars. In connection with this, I would like to officially declare to open the webinar from now on. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency Soem Nara, for your opening remarks. Definitely insightful. May I please next invite, and also on the agenda item, to invite Mr. Niels Meijers, Business Development Manager at FingerTips, to give his presentation. Niels, I pass on the floor to you. Thank you.
First of all, thank you everybody for joining in the webinar. And that we had the great opportunity to contribute to the webinar with all of you. I will share my screen. Is everybody able to see my screen? Just to make sure.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. So a small introduction from my side personally. My name is Niels Meijers. I'm living in the Netherlands at present, but I have lived in Cambodia for 2.5 years, 5 years ago, where I was able to follow up on order and production follow-up inside the factories of the Cambodia country. At the moment, I'm working for FingerTip. I'm going to explain you a little bit more, and also my colleague Pierre will elaborate more on the needs on digitization for the Garment 4.0. Why? Because over the last year, we recognized that a lot of industries are changing. However, the apparel business is keep on having the old school way of working. And we think also to improve on the country 4.0 garments, we can help with our platform in terms of digitization in a smart, simple, and transparent way. Because why? Because today's pain points in the world what we are living in, there is the inconvenience of report checking. Everybody's working on an Excel sheet with a long Excel sheets, right? And we see in the factory itself, it starts evaluating already. However, the order follow-up is all still maintained old school way with a lot of emails. So how many emails do you have as a factory owner or as a merchandiser or as a buyer? Everybody is still working on tremendously long emails where it's difficult to get a fully transparent business module, and there is no visibility. Not even to forget the years of COVID, the last 2 years. I know it's getting better to enter the country of Cambodia, but it was for organizations and companies very difficult to track their own production because you were not able to travel. Sustainability, I mean, it's getting more and more important nowadays. Everybody, if I'm seeing it here in Europe, where I'm based, all the people, all the organizations, they would like to know where is the fabric, where is the products, how is the relation in terms of workmanship or the labor. It's very important to know what is the status of the order in terms of sustainability. And of course, last one of the pain points is remote work. We are now in the webinar, of course, but due to COVID, we had to work remotely. So it's very difficult to manage your order and production, which leads to a difficulty of managing your quality output. So again, how is the industry changing over the last 20 years? What we realized is that a lot of branches, industries already digitized. If we talk about logistics, if we talk about automotive, not to forget, the development of the cars which you are seeing in the last couple of years is all going to be fully automated. Design, e-commerce, a lot of web shops are coming in. And they are fully digitized. But our garment industry is lacking on this development. We of course, we get into the auto cut machines, etc., etc. But on the back end, everything is done again. It's done old school. And there we have to change. If we don't change it, we're not getting to the garment 4.0. So bottom line, from a complex supply chain, where everybody's working in silos and it's fragmented, we need to align our organizations all together to a smart and simple network. But really simple. Everybody needs to be connected with each other. The benefits for this industry is that if, and again, Pierre, my colleague, will elaborate more and he will explain more about our platform FingerTip. But we need to be 24/7. Everybody wants to know what is happening with your production. It will save you a lot of time. At the end, also for the manufacturer side, it will save the cost. Travel reduction. But very important is the transparency and the visibility on what is happening exactly in the country. It will reduce the admin, and at the end, it will increase your productivity. A couple of organizations are already implemented in the country of Cambodia. If we talk about inspections, right? At the end of each production line, you need to digitize. You need to do a final inspection of the finished goods. Private 88, inspectorial, but also our platform FingerTip is now able to digitize this product, this project. So what we can do is walk with the tablet into the factory and manage your output, your workmanship, your measurement fully digitized. The same as as the real-time order follow-up. Reduce the amount of Excel sheets and emails, but it can be fully digitized. Smart and simple solutions can already make the change. Old school measurements, where people walk in the factory with the measurement tape, writing everything down, all the figures. At the end of the day, the inspector or the people in the factory, they have to go back to the laptop. They have to fill in all the information again. Stop it. We have developed an automatic measurement tape where you can measure it and insert all the data into the platform, which at the end, again here, it results in saving time, saving the cost. but it's also more flexible. It's more convenient for the workers because it's so simple. And it's a simple solution, but it can tremendously change the way of we working at the moment. Again, my colleague Pierre will elaborate more, but we have developed 2 products. One of them is our production board FingerTip. Production board FingerTip is able to track and order your production outputs for order placement or shipment. And as I mentioned, the second product which we has developed, well, we come from the field, so we know the pain points, is the digital inspections. And this is what we called the quality support FingerTip. And it's giving you real-time insights, real-time data information of what is really happening in your factory. Any questions so far, or I'm handing it over to my colleague Pierre?
Thank you, Niels. I think our audience can also drop in their questions in the Q&A box below, and then perhaps also later we can also address it during the panel discussion. Yeah.
Okay, Niels, if you can unshare your screen, I will share mine.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you, Pierre. One thing before you start, I just would like to inform the audience. My name is Masi. I will moderate a little bit later. The company FingerTip was chosen because it's actually the only product that is completely made in Cambodia. Though the ownership might not be Cambodian of nationality, but the people working on the product all live in Cambodia, and the product is actually made by Cambodians. That was the reason why we invited FingerTip on the panel.
Thank you, Masi, for mentioning that. I didn't dare actually saying it because I cannot really prove it. There might be someone else around Cambodia developing something, but I'm happy that you're the one saying that we're the only one. So I'm Pierre. I'm the head of marketing here at FingerTip, which is, as you might have understood before, an order and quality management digital platform that allows all the stakeholders like involved in production basically to work from the same platform and collaborate better. I'll mention that a little bit more in detail a bit later. So I will start immediately, if I can change my slide. Yep. That today I will talk about how important it is for Cambodia to not only embrace the Industry 4.0, but to take an active role, a leading role, actually the driving seat in defining what this Industry 4.0 will be about. So definitely, I want to talk about the benefits for Cambodia, especially for manufacturers, because I'm guessing a lot of manufacturers are listening to us today. Of course, we can easily say you need to embark, you need to jump on that train because this is where the world is going. Yes, of course, but that's not the only argument, right? Industry 4.0 is also the best way for us to solve our daily problems, the problems that are in our supply chains and problems that have been around for 20, maybe 30 years. And looking at Industry 4.0, we can look at it, of course, as it is a revolution and you should just do it, right? Which is, yes, of course. but also it's like true daily benefits for all the actors, all the stakeholders involved in it, and especially for suppliers. So what does Industry 4.0, what can it bring to us? Of course, we talked about it before, competitiveness. This gives you an edge on other countries, definitely. A better collaboration, and anybody who's been spending more than a week or 2 weeks in production and in supply chain knows that today supply chain is crippled by silos. There is very, very little collaboration. Everybody's like doesn't necessarily trust each other. What are the other benefits? Resiliency. We've seen that with COVID-19, especially, that very, very, very few of us were ready to face this disruption, right? And so if there is one learning we can get from COVID-19 is that we need to be ready for the next one, because if we don't know when it will come, we know that it will come, right? And we don't know from where, and we don't know when. Of course, there is other topics such as transparency. It's a big topic today. Sustainability, and there is no other way than embracing Industry 4.0 to tackle these topics. So the last point for me, and especially why manufacturers, why Cambodia needs to embrace Industry 4.0. It's also an opportunity for factories, for manufacturers to take a bit of the power back. In the old way of doing things in the supply chain, the very centralized and controlling supply chain as it is today, or as it was yesterday, as today it's about to change, retailers have full power. They demand, they decide, and factories they have to follow. The opportunity we have with Industry 4.0 is that we're all on an equal level of understanding of information, which is the key, and in full transparency. So definitely, yes, it is an opportunity for manufacturers to take a bit of the knowledge, so a bit of the power back. Okay. The second important matter is to wonder, okay, we're talking about Industry 4.0, but who's driving it? Who's in charge? Who's implementing it? Is it tech companies? Is it governments? Is it factories? Is it brands? Okay, so the right answer obviously would be, well, it should be a bit of everybody. We should collaboratively work on defining Industry 4.0 and implementing it. The reality, from our experience at FingerTip, when we travel to Europe, when we travel to the US, and we present our products, we meet a bit of course, the competition and what are all the initiatives, what are all the companies working in that field of the Industry 4.0. What we have noticed is like very often it's led by tech companies that come from tech background. They don't have any supply chain expertise. They don't have any supply chain background, yet they are the one deciding how the technology will look like, what it should do, what are the innovations. And so this we see as a main problem, that this topic is taken by tech companies. Most of these people actually come from the financial industry. Financial industry has been completely digitalized, and now they focus on a new project, a new industry that they're ready to digitalize. We cannot let only tech people not coming from our industry have the driving seat. That's why Cambodia, it's important that Cambodia has a responsibility to take responsibility and take a leading role in implementing and developing Industry 4.0. So that's only after saying that, you will understand that what our positioning here at FingerTip is. is that, okay, we're saying Cambodia needs to have a leading role. That's why we are developing a solution here called FingerTip and fully made in Cambodia. Made in Cambodia, designed in Cambodia, conceptualized in the factories, piloted in the factories in Cambodia, because we believe that Industry 4.0 needs to be defined by the reality of the ground. It needs to be defined by what's happening in the factories. And you know, I'm going back to this this idea of like tech company deciding. Tech companies will come up with crazy innovations. Of course, now we're talking a lot about blockchain, we're talking about a lot of AI. These people will come with great ideas, but most of the time they're completely disconnected from the reality of the ground, which we wanted to avoid here at FingerTip. That's why all the product is developed and tested and piloted in the factories in Cambodia, and the software, because it's a software, is developed by Cambodian people who have factory expertise. So just a few words about FingerTip. I won't spam you too much with it, but what is FingerTip? It's a digital platform, a digital order, production, and quality management to monitor and manage quality and your on-time delivery instantly from the moment we sign the PO until shipment. So to make it very simple, it's a project and task management and communication management platform. I think a lot of us are used to using project management softwares, right, on the cloud. So this is what we're developing in concept, but specific to the supply chain, specific to manufacturing, specific to order management. All stakeholders, from the retailers, the brands, the agencies, the inspection companies, and the supplier, all work from the same platform. What does it do is like everybody has access to the same information. Everything is transparent. You know who's responsible for what, when they're supposed to do it, who said what. All the communication is filtered and centralized, available for everyone to see. All your documents, all your trackers, all your data is in that platform. So what does it do? Everybody collaborates better. It helps people meet delivery dates, helps them also improve quality. And because it captures all the data that's produced on the factory floor on a daily basis, because the amount of data we produce is huge. What FingerTip does is like takes all this data and analyze it and gives you amazing dashboards, basically, that helps all the stakeholders involved to make better business decisions, understand where are the problems, how to find the root cause of recurring defects, for example. What is the reason for a delay in production? All of it from one single platform that you can access, anybody can access 24/7 from any device. So FingerTip very quickly relies on few technologies that are all part of what we call the Internet of Things. Internet of Things is actually gathers a lot of different technology. FingerTip relies on cloud computing, big data, and real-time technologies. Okay, finally, Industry 4.0, why in Cambodia? Well, it sounds a bit like a silly question because Cambodia is definitely the epicenter of the garment industry. So there is no better place, and I really want to insist on that point. There is no better place to define Industry 4.0, to try it, to experiment, because we have all the knowledge in one country. We have an amazing amount of resources, an amazing amount of factories where we can try out our solutions and define for the rest of the world what Industry 4.0 should be. And as I said, an amazing experimental laboratory where we can try out our apps, our softwares, and have direct feedback on the same day from the factory, from people who work daily in the production lines. So what are the challenges? Because of course, this is the dream, right? To have Cambodia take that leading role, and Cambodia will definitely. But what are the challenges of Industry 4.0 in Cambodia? The first one is behavior change from retailers and suppliers. For retailers, it's going to be difficult to give some of the power that they have today to the suppliers and to the other stakeholders of the supply chain. So this is going to be definitely going to be a challenge moving forward. But also factories don't necessarily, some of the factories in Cambodia are actually already at the front foot when it comes to developing apps, developing software to manage their production, manage their quality. But the majority of them today, if you bring them a digital solution, a decentralized solution where they have to do all these new processes, they will see that as a threat at first. Of course, once they start using it and that they are guided through that journey, they understand that through automation, they save a crazy amount of time. They save crazy amount of money. They can finally get a grip on their data that they were producing all this time, all these 20, 30, 40 years, they've been producing data, but this data was gathered on a piece of paper, an email was sent, and the piece of paper was thrown to the bin. The amazing data that factories are producing is gold. And the moment they understand it's gold, they will know that Industry 4.0 will make sure they can leverage that gold. So as I said, we need to convince the supplier of the amazing opportunity because they need to be in a network of full transparency. And of course, the final challenge is that a technology is only as good as the amount of people using it, right? So you can create blockchain, you can create AI, you can create machine learning, you can create big data. If people are not playing the game, if people are not inputting data, if some people are using technology, some are not, then it's completely useless. So the real challenge is for everybody to play the game, from the retailers, the brands, the inspection companies, the factories, to all work on that single platform. So this is my last slide, and what we learned, developing FingerTip in Cambodia. And developing it from the standpoint that we should think about how it's going to be used in factory first. First learning is that we need to be simple. Industry 4.0 cannot be another crazy, complicated, complex set of tools that don't communicate with each other. And because at the end, everybody will go back to sharing Excel spreadsheets and sending email. Simplicity is what we believe in. That's why we created a platform, actually FingerTip, that everything can be done at the tip of your finger. Number one, simplicity. Second, I think you understood, we need to look at this digital revolution from a very grounded perspective. So everything that we do should be first a good idea for the factory floor before it is a good technical or technology idea. So look at the topic from the reality, from the ground. And finally, involve, and what we're doing with FingerTip, involve factories early on, immediately actually. FingerTip, as I said, was conceptualized and piloted in factories here in Cambodia mostly. And this is why today we're confident when we go to customers, to retailers, to brands, because all of them have the same question. It's like, how will I make my factories use your solution? Well, you don't have to think about that if it was made with the factories to begin with. That's it for me. Thank you very much for your attention. And I'll be happy to answer any question later on if you have any.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your presentation. I think next, I think it's also what everyone is currently waiting for the panel discussions. So let me remind to our online audience that you may drop in your questions in the Q&A box below, and my colleagues, Mr. Massimiliano, who will be the moderator of the next session, will try to coordinate and have your question answered. So speaking of that, I would like to quickly introduce my colleagues, Mr. Massimiliano, who will be the moderator of the sessions. We will also have participation from Mr. Ken Lu, who is the Secretary General of GMAX. Thank you, Mr. Ken Lu, for your participation today. And also we have a participation from Dr. Sam Setzere, who's a Director General of the Institute of Technology, Digital Research and Innovations. In short, everyone may know as a CADT. We also gonna have Mr. Joseph Telfer, who is the co-founder and managing partners at DataU and Mekong Big Data. And of course, we have once again Mr. Pierre Rabotin, who just delivered the presentation earlier. So that being said, Messi, I now give you the floor for your panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ratana. Yeah, can you stop sharing the screen, please? Thank you, everyone, for participating. I can see quite a lot of people among the participants. Certainly quite few manufacturers, some important stakeholders from the European Union, of course, the GMAC is all present, as well as the ILO, and most important, probably few people from Institute of Technology of Cambodia and from the American University of Phnom Penh. And I'm sure I missed many more. That speaks volumes in terms of the interest of this topic. I would like to, before starting with the session, a small introduction that will probably push my panelists towards certain topics. I didn't actually Google when that happened, but probably somewhere around 1850, Mr. Singer might have invented the sewing machine with the needle that goes up and down. Well, that particular needle is, after almost 200 years nowadays, is still going up and down. And that simple idea should speak volumes to our technology professors and institutions that are here listening to us, how much their brain is required into helping the industry coming out of this loop. I personally worked in the sector for more than 20 years, and I can confidently say that I can name on the tip of my 10 fingers the innovations that I saw during 20 years. And some of them are, of course, the auto cutter. Some of them are the auto spreader, perhaps the relaxing machine and the automatic counting of the fabric length and width and defects, etc. But then few more. Whereas if you go in an automotive factory, at least in the final assembly of the big brand of where they actually assemble the car, the story is completely different. Therefore, having said that, I would like to encourage the participation of our professor technicians, robotic people that study robotic and automation to participate. What His Excellency has highlighted, the study of UNIDO together with ILO that has been is actually not yet published, but it's there circulating, has been highlighting the lack of skills. Of course, if the Cambodia garment industry goes ahead, we need the skills. Electricity cost is fundamental, but I would say also the culture of the management not to manage the old way, and this is a little bit on the line of what Pierre was saying on his presentation. So, having said that, I would like to share one image. Yes, to start with. Is everybody able to see my image?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Without being too complicated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are the part of the supply chain or in the factories, right? Where there is or there could be automation. And the garment, footwear, bags are the 3 main sectors. And then on a scale 1 to 4 is the automation counted. 1 is manual and 4 is fully automated. Now, as a spark of debate, I would rather look at this. We do not even reach above 2, which is a semi-manual operations, and that 2 is achieved in the footwear, where usually the factories are more specialized, I would say, and big brands are in with big numbers, or some of the operation cannot be completed manually because only a machine can do that particular gluing or that particular precise cutting. Therefore, footwear is more advanced. But when it comes to garments itself, we are at 190 at the best. Therefore, I would like to ask my first question to Mr. Ken Lu. Is the industry ready for this leap for the Garment 4.0 in Cambodia, in your opinion, Ken?
Hi everyone. I think we have to understand what's the rationale behind this low technology. No, low technology uptake is probably not the right way to put it, but you know, the table that you've just shown, 1 point something. The industry has, for the last 30, 40, 50 years, moved from country to country, chasing after the lowest labor cost. And because we are labor intensive, right? And the move from labor or to push for higher adoption of the use of technology, there's always a cost benefit analysis that each investor goes through internally. And depending on where they decide to move further, if they decide to move from Cambodia, then there will, or if they decide to stay, there will be a point in time, whether in the near future or in the far future, when the cost of embracing technology will be, it will be more cost efficient for the investor to embrace the use of technology as opposed to hiring more manual labor to perform the job, right? And you've raised the example of auto spreader, and that's the example I like to use. 20 years ago, the cost of an auto spreader was $30,000, $40,000, and wages was $50 a month, it was a lot more cost efficient to hire 5 people, run up and down, laying out the fabric, right? But today, the cost of an auto spreader has dropped significantly. I think it costs for some brands, it now costs less than $10,000, right? And the wage level of the same 5 staff that you need to employ has risen from $50 a month to $300 a month. So it would make sense for some investors to now decide that to use the machine to replace people, right? It's more cost efficient for them, and we do see that happening, but it's not happening for every factory. In fact, I think this question of embracing Industry 4.0 and this question of embracing technology would really depend on the investor staying put where they are instead of uprooting and moving to another country that has lower or cheaper labor costs, right? So if they're still able to find an alternative country whereby labor cost is still significantly lower than staying put in Cambodia, then there will be less pressure to embrace the use of technology. The use of technology to either enhance the performance of human beings, their staff, or eventually to replace human beings for certain job functions. So I think the question is for the investor whether they are going to stay put in Cambodia. And if they do stay put in Cambodia, we all know that labor costs will rise, is rising, will continue to rise. There will come a point in time whereby certain job functions, it makes more sense for them to embrace technology as opposed to continue to use manual labor. But I want to say, I do agree with the point that it is time for all manufacturers, whether in Cambodia or in other countries, to embrace the use of more systems for data management, more systems similar, or it can be FingerTip, it can be another software developer that develops such systems for better data management, really to manage the information we have from big data, and this will better help the whole production process, right? So I think we need to embrace the use of technology in this sense, regardless of where you go, whether you decide to move to another country, you need to use systems. That is the trend. However, if the question is, are we ready to embrace replacing humans with machines? I don't think Cambodia is at that stage. Cost of electricity is high, still high. Cost of labor, so it's like the personal computer, like your PC that you have, right? When the PC first came out, $5,000 per PC, expensive. Right now you can buy a laptop, and then it got cheaper and cheaper, and laptops were introduced, and laptop cost $5,000 when they were introduced. Now a laptop costs $500. Everybody can afford a laptop, right? So I think we together, similarly, the industry, like other industries, need to go through this process where the cost of automation comes down and keep coming down, and the cost of labor goes up and keep going up. And in economics, there will be a crossover point where it's more efficient to use machines. And at that point in time, I think those who do not embrace the further adoption of automation will be phased out by market forces.
So, in other words, do you think that technology could or can stop the race to the country with cheaper salary?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question. The industry is still largely labor intensive, right? I think in certain developed countries, yes, we have had examples of pilot projects where people start to try try and set up a fully, what is defined as a fully automated, whether it's a garment factory or a footwear factory. Adidas had an experiment, right, where they, I think a few years ago, proudly launched what they call a fully automated shoe factory in Germany. And however, unfortunately, the technology at that time, this is 4 or 5 years ago, fully automated means you could cut manual labor by 60%, no, 40%, sorry. They still use 60% of the workers in a typical factory. If I'm not mistaken, unfortunately, that factory has closed down. It's closed down. So I think it's testament to evidence that we're still not ready for that. So I think unless the cost of automation, which is to replace humans with machines, changes in that. And if that doesn't happen, then I think it would still make sense for manufacturers to chase after low cost, especially if it's going to be significantly different. We know that when the sector moved from the west to the east, right? So it went from what, a few $100s a month to 10%, $50 a month, $30 a month, $40 a month in Asia in 30 years ago. And we've seen wages go up, to the point whereby in the near future, 5 years, maybe 10 years, maybe it will be a few $100s. Then is there a place where they can go and get and pay only 10% the price? Maybe, right? Maybe. If they are able to find these places or these countries, then I'm sure they will move. But sooner or later, they run out of countries. There are only so many countries in the world. Sooner or later, they have nowhere to go. We have to embrace technology.
Thank you, Ken.
I don't know if it's going to be 4.0. Maybe it's going to be Industry 6.0.
Thank you. I would like to share one video. I hope I would be able to do that. So let me, 1 second. Yes. There you go. Is everybody able to see this image of a worker in front of a machine?
Yes.
Okay, I hope even the sound will reach you. It's a few seconds.
When you share the screen, don't forget to click to share also the sound so that we can also hear.
Where is the sound? Share sound. Sharing. Yes. Now, after having seen this video, I would like to ask our other panelists, particularly Joseph from DataU Mekong Big Data, and the representative from CADT, the following questions. After having heard what Mr. Ken was saying about the cost of automation or rather robotics. Which one would you pick up first? Automation or rather robotics for the garment sector? Or neither of the two? Joseph.
Dr. Setsaray, after you.
Okay, so thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to introduce a little bit about the Cambodia economy and technology, maybe a few seconds. Okay.
Sure, of course.
Okay. Thank you very much. So my name is Soem Nara from Cambodia Academy of Digital Technology. So Cambodia Academy of Digital Technology is a public research, education, and training institute of the Ministry of Post and Telecommunication. And we are specialized in capacity building for digital talent and research, as well as promoting digital startup ecosystem and entrepreneurship. And we have 3 institutes inside CADT. The first one we call Institute of Digital Governance, which is in charge of providing digital skill training to civil servants and promoting digital adoption for digital government and digital economy development. The second institute is Institute of Digital Technology, which is a higher education institution specialized in digital technology, providing excellent training program to develop digital talent such as digital engineer and digital business, which are indispensable for the development of digital economy and society. The last institute we call Institute of Digital Research and Innovation, a first of its kind research institute in Cambodia to conduct research and development in digital technology, to try digital innovation and entrepreneurship in Cambodia. For research, we adopt applied research in emerging technology like AI, data science, IoT, language technology, and cybersecurity. Okay, so this is about our CADT. So turn back to your question, very good question. It's about the choice between automation or robotics. Which one we should pick up? Okay, so I think first, to answer this question, we need to understand the difference between robotics and automation by definition. So the robotic refer to equipment or system or device that can do complex tasks, many tasks, and that connected together and produce the final outcome or something. Okay, so and what about automation? Automation is designed to do a specific task automatically. So this is the difference. And by the definition, I think I say that it's a little bit far for Cambodia to catch up majority of the industry government for the robotics. Why? Because there are 3 main challenges. The first one, robotics is very expensive. And the second one, we need high-skill operator and maintenance, high-skill engineer to do so, because robots do complex tasks. Okay, so not a specific task. So we need a higher and complex skill engineer to operate and to maintain it. Very high cost. And it is not yet relevant for Cambodia's situation. And the third one is about the infrastructure readiness. So our speaker, our panelists mentioned about the electricity, the high price of electricity. But there are other things like robot, they do many tasks and the task is interconnected and it needs the network, it needs the internet. So the high-speed internet and stable internet is needed to operate robot. Okay, and so I think for me, choosing automation or robotics for the first start and for the current situation of Cambodia, in my opinion, we should start with automation. And then maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, when our infrastructure is ready, is better, okay, connectivity is better, electricity is cheaper, something, And also our skill worker, we can upgrade the skill, okay, to some certain level that can operate the robot, because robot have different level of robot as well, right? So I think robotic we can think about, and that adjust to the Cambodia situation. I think maybe within 5 to 10 years more, we need time. Yeah. So this is my contribution for this.
Thank you, Doctor. Joseph?
Yeah, I think I wholly agree with Dr. Setrey on this subject. The capital expenditure on robotics is so significant in the garment sector, which is notoriously low margin. And so we really need to get back to basics when we're talking about the manufacturing sector in general, whether that's garments or whether it's machinery or automotive. And we have to understand why owners, factory owners would make the investments into these areas. And ultimately, the reason for making investments into these areas in the manufacturing sector is to increase cash flow, increase profit margin, or decrease inventory. And I think this is an important notion to add, because when we talk about technology, we have a tendency to talk about technology in terms of hardware or in terms of software. And when we talk about Industry 4.0, we immediately assume that what that means is the application of software or hardware for some kind of new process. But technology is also the application of scientific knowledge. And within the manufacturing sector in Cambodia, the application of robotics, as Dr. Setrey said, is 5 years or 10 years away, maybe, who knows. But because of the capital expenditure that's required, the payback period is not going to be as significant or as fast as what we might see in other areas, such as the application of contemporary scientific technology. And that's just in terms of manufacturing best practice. So being open-minded to what we're seeing from, even things that came from Japanese manufacturing through the 20th century have been lost and forgotten in some sense, and those can be brought back. And those can be enabled through software. And that's, one of the great things that FingerTip does is it overlays traditional processes with technology. So for me, my comment on this is that automation is a much lower hanging fruit. The capital expenditure is magnitude smaller than robotics. The risk of failure is much, much smaller. So we can very quickly adapt automation in processes, automation in some of the software tools that we use, tools like FingerTip, but there are also other made for the purpose applications. Niels mentioned a couple of them earlier, Pivot 88 and Inspectorio, and as well as FingerTip being the homegrown Cambodia created product. But there are other generic off-the-shelf automation tools that are really cost-effective these days and can have a significant impact on the manufacturing operations of a factory. And then lastly, what I think is important to stress in this is that when we think about a factory, we are looking at an organization that does manufacturing. So it's not just that on the line we apply technology and we apply Industry 4.0 thinking to enable efficiencies, just in the same way that a bank applies digital technologies to the way it manages its customers, the way it manages its data, the way it manages its staff, the way it manages its energy in its buildings. All of these things have automation and technology applications which can drive efficiencies. Not just when we talk about, do we need a machine that folds quicker than 5 Cambodians or this kind of thing. So it's a broad application of technology, and very specifically the application of scientific knowledge into that position as well, which is why I think automation offers a more significant return on investment for Cambodia as a nation than robotics at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph, for this contribution.
I would like to elaborate a little bit more, if possible.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so yes, I think majority of garment industry, I think we can start with automation first and robotic later. But I also think about other option that also should consider, and I think we might have some pilot zone, by example, let's say if we have a kind of, okay, let's say technology park or something in which the government support in terms of tax credit, in terms of electricity, high-speed connectivity or something, to do some pilots for the robotic or for the automation or something. Because, you know, when we talk about industry 4.0, there are many levels. Actually, there are 4 waves of the technology for industry 4.0. There are the first we call fixed internet. After that, we call mobile internet. After that, we call IoT. After that, we have AI and robotics. And AI and robotics is the full scale of industry 4.0. But there are also low level of industry 4.0 until the high level. So by this sense, I think if we can have a kind of zone that we can apply like pilot to understand and to see the best practice, because you know, robot is very good, right? When we deploy robots in the government, in terms of we get much better in terms of quality and quantity, and in the production, right? And saving cost and transparency, as our presenter mentioned, right? So I think for the majority of the garment factory, maybe they think about automation to better to have a good quality and quantity of the production, okay? But at the same time, if we can have a kind of, you know, technology park that we can provide a good environment to pilot some garment factory, I don't know, with some incentive, tax credit, subsidy of the government, some part, and with maybe some like PPP, public-private partnership mechanism or something to make it happen for the pilot. I think maybe we can see concrete, a good example for this as well. Yeah,
that is a very good idea. Sorry, Joseph. I think we need to move on to a next topic. There are some interesting topics coming up, and I would like to move a little bit on to another side of the topic. There is a question from Mr. Virakprum. With automation and so on, what are some key investment in human capital that stakeholders, government and private enterprise must make now to deal with future high unemployment rate, knowing that most garment workers are women? Well, I think you, Joseph, also you have an academy as well as in a school, and probably I would like, after you finish, to turn the question to some of our people participating here from the ILO. After Joseph, please.
Thanks, Messi. Yeah, this is a really serious issue. When we talk about automation, we are almost necessarily talking about job loss, let's say, or we can't be sure about net job loss, but we can certainly be sure about localized job loss. So within the sector, we expect to see some loss of jobs, but again, automation doesn't necessarily, in its first instance, automatically create job losses. It can instead create efficiencies in margin or in inventory control or in cash flow control. And then therefore the employment numbers can stay the same with output increasing. In terms of looking more generically at what will happen over the next 5 years as automation and Industry 4.0 crashes into the Cambodian economy, especially in post-COVID boom time, we need to seriously think about the retraining and reskilling and upskilling of Cambodians. And I say this a lot, not just Cambodian youth. We need to also understand that we have middle-aged Cambodians that have contributed hugely to the economy up until now and still have a big contribution to give. And so they mustn't be ignored just because it's not fashionable or exciting to talk about investing in the skills of our middle-aged Cambodian workforce as well. We at Data U Academy train in data analytics, data engineering, so really Industry 4.0 specific niche training in a big demand area. But more thinking needs to go into how we help the most vulnerable in society, the most at risk in society, to reskill and contribute into the new economy, or to at a fiscal level create safety nets that are robust. And that's, I think, where ILO come in, where the NGOs and where the development sector really have a big role to play hand in hand with the royal government, because I think left to the private sector, the risks are too big and the rewards are too, as we talked about with robotics, the rewards and the return on investment is so long that it's unwise to hope and expect that an organic outcome by the private sector will protect the most vulnerable in society as automation comes in. And that will affect the garment sector, and that necessarily will disproportionately affect women. And so work and consideration definitely needs to happen in that space. Data U Academy is proudly about 40 to 45% female. That I will say is through concerted and deliberate effort on our part to, and with our partners at USAID to make that happen. So it's a very complex question, Massey. One that involves all stakeholders to work together. But yeah, I stress that organic outcomes from the private sector, I don't think are going to solve this issue.
I also want to elaborate a little bit on the question. I think there are some challenging, okay, for when we are adopting for Industry 4.0 in the government sector. But frankly speaking, actually, if we adopt automation and then robotics, actually, it's the benefit for the economy, that the economy, our economy will be grow because we have a better production, better quality and quantity for export. And in the theory of the economy, I think this will bring in the money, and then the money will circulate inside the country. And then, by example, okay, we upskill for the low skilled worker, okay, women and men, low skilled worker. We upskill them to be able to operate, by example, the technology, the automation machine or something. For those that cannot catch up, okay. So there are some way, if some study about, if I'm not confused, it's from ILO. They mentioned that automation can affect around 15% of the high risk job for the low skilled worker, but robotic is much more, maybe 2/3. Yes, but I think maybe we can start with the automation, but I don't think maybe everyone can start at the same time. I think maybe those who see the opportunity in that challenge, they can start first. Some factory, some government factory, they can start first. And this maybe they can benefit from this. I also read one article. They mentioned about the economic ecosystem. When the export, we can increase the productivity and export, and then we bring in the money to the country. And then, by example, when we do automation, so our worker is the medium or high level technician, right? So they got more when the company gain more money, they give good wage, right? So it means that the standard of living is higher. For me, I see in the reality, our worker, women, for example, they live very in low, with not good nutrition. I feel hurt, Cambodian, you know, but I think if we can reskill or if we can upskill for some that can catch up, we give more salary because they can operate the machine or something, and then we give more salary, they live in a good standard of living, good nutrition, and then they will have some need because they need higher, they need good nutrition, and maybe other sector like agriculture, food production, meat production. So they need to increase, right? Increase the production of the meat or something, good quality or something. And then for those that cannot catch up with the technology, they can reskill to do other things in agriculture, in tourism, in construction or something, right? So, but the important is we need to increase the export out, bring the money in, and the money will circulate inside the country with so that job is easily to find and with the good wage, I think. So I just.
But Dr. Setsere, I'm sorry, I see some questions that are pretty worried about the number of workers that could be affected by this and what the government can do, etc. I would like to pre-answer to this to the people that have posted these questions that every developed country in the world has gone through actually this process, the process from an unskilled labor force or manufacturing supply chain to a more advanced supply chain and more and better skilled labor. And in that creation of better of more advanced supply chain, the work market transforms itself. So people need to realize that, and we cannot keep the workforce as it is exactly, because it's actually a moving things. But I would like to ask you, in practice, which courses are nowadays required for the garment sector? Very practical, engineer, textile, etc. Which course or from your institution are now required to help this transition towards a more advanced garment sector nowadays? Give me 3.
Okay, so I have studied on this as well about I found a report from ADB published in January 2021 about the Cambodia skill development for Industry 4.0. And they highlight 10 skill category, but if you ask for the top three, yes. So for the next 5 to 10 years, the top 3 skill that in priority is the skill that related to the complex problem solving, the technician, the technical or ICT related, the critical thinking skill. Yeah, so I can see. So basically, when we talk about problem solving, technical or mechanical and ICT related or critical thinking, all these skill related need someone that has some background in STEM, actually, science, technology, engineering, and math, right? So we need to prepare for the STEM education and training in TVET or in school, primary school, secondary school, by upskilling STEM teacher, equipped with internet, digital literacy, and STEM lab. But the challenge here is the lab. The STEM lab is expensive, right? But luckily, I think maybe people are aware of we call metaverse, virtual reality, right? So I think with this technology that we can visualize the lab. I think we can visualize the lab, and this may be a kind of disruption. The challenge we can solve maybe with the visual reality. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to shift a bit again the topic by, how to say, sharing the screen again, and particularly sharing this image that I found on a website called Just Style. And can you read that?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see that? So the rate of companies hiring for robotics role rose in January compared to the same time last year. This is January 2022. And this is a proportion of apparel supply chain companies hiring for robotics role. Now, this refers most probably to the US market. That means that I didn't dig very much. It's most probably to the US market. That means that between 5, let's say 10 to 20% of the American companies are actually hiring or looking for people in robotics. So this is one first, how to say, thing that I wanted to share. The second thing that I want to share is a small video, and it's a small video. 1 second. Before I will share, I would like to adjust this video. Where is it? Yes. Yes. Unfortunately, this video does not have a sound, but it's you can read and you can easily understand what we are talking about, in the sense the sound does not explain what's happening, but it's easy to understand. And then after that, I would like to do a few considerations. Yes, I would like to invite, but any of the public as well, perhaps who has not had the possibility to talk yet, to comment about this video, if there is any sort of things coming up to their mind about this video.
I can say one thing. When I look at it, you see an amazing technology being developed out of some of the best labs in the world, with tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars of research and development spending, through a university that would have very favorable tax arrangements with its government, and also very favorable donors giving to that university, who themselves receive tax incentives to support that university and their development. So I think we're seeing innovation like that coming from a context that is outside of our context. However, what it reminds me of is ABA is a verb in Cambodia now, right? ABA me. If you go to a street vendor, they have their ABA code around their neck and I can scan my code. And that's 2 years, 3 years. I moved here 4.5 years ago, and it was cash 90% of the day. I don't even have, I don't carry my wallet anymore. I carry my phone, and that's it. And that's such a rapid transition. Bitcoin, not legal in Cambodia. And yet Cambodia has an extremely active Bitcoin community, peer-to-peer community. It's fashionable to own Dogecoin or Shiba Inu. And it's just been adopted like this. So what I think is important about this video and about Cambodia in general is that Cambodians and Cambodian business and Cambodian enterprise and industry flows like water. Give Cambodia something easy that creates value and savings and is interesting and brings them to the future. And within 6 months, 1 year, it's adopted and widespread. So I'm very hopeful for the way that Cambodia will embrace technology, bring technology into its factories, into its culture, into its society, and how it won't be so slow as we see even in Western developed economies, because Western developed economies always look at what they had before and incrementally add. So we go from fax to email to SMS messaging, and it goes slow, slow, slow. Whereas Cambodia just says, that's cool, we're going to do that now. And the old is gone and the new comes in. So who knows, in 2 years, maybe we'll see deaf people in Cambodia using some sort of Bluetooth enabled sign language speaking system here as well.
Actually, well, I hope His Excellency Soem Nara is listening to this, because Setsere has ambition a park, a tech park, however small, with some financing, with some participation from the manufacturing association, and therefore from the production floor, and some active participation from the universities. Your participation in terms of data analysis, FingerTip participation in terms of software and platform, or any other participation possible in this country. Because the reason why I share that is the following. It has been maybe 40 years that robots are around in the industry and manufacturing industries, yet the garment industry is the last stronghold where almost no robotics has gone, because numbers are too small, margins are too low, cost is too high, etc. You name it. Now, we have these amazing things that is the hands of the workers. Now, I am Italian, I move my hands too much. But the hands of the workers are what we have not been able to push out by technology. Therefore, we don't need to fight against pushing them out and losing jobs. We need to rather find a technology to include those hands into the system, and a pair of gloves to each and every worker in a super high-tech factory would be amazing. Would be amazing. We just need money, investment, focus, and a lot of knowledge, It's not possible to fight against the human hands that are the most versatile things on earth when you require versatility to make garments, because that's why the robotics cannot enter in the sector, because you require so many different things. So let's not fight them, but rather use the data that they generate. Anyhow, I think we are almost approaching it's around another 15 minutes, okay? I have finished the list of questions that I had prepared. Let me see if there is some open question. What is the government-private vision about the technical textile research and production in Cambodia? example, filtration, automotive, biomedical. But that's a good question. Perhaps somebody can reply in the audience.
Yeah,
if there is.
Reply. We don't
Ken,
have.
your mic is very far, Ken.
Sorry,
yes,
can you
yes,
hear me
that's
now?
better. Yeah.
Okay. We don't have a textile industry in Cambodia, so I don't know if the participant is aware of that. We have a garment industry.
Well, okay, with garment manufacturing industry, correct?
Yes, we have a garment manufacturing industry. We do not have a textile manufacturing base, so we don't produce the fabrics. We import all the raw materials that we need. So yeah, your question about technical textile research and production doesn't really suit.
But in the light of the new sector strategy, it might be a very well placed question, right?
Yeah. Also doesn't. The sector strategy also does not really talk about attracting fabric. It talks about attracting other upstream, downstream, and possibly other supporting industry to Cambodia. I think we have to acknowledge the fact that the window for attracting fabric production to Cambodia has more or less closed, right? Any potential investor looking to invest in the region for fabric production would have gone to Vietnam the last 5 to 8 years, chasing after TPP and of course the EU-Vietnam FTA, right? So I don't think you need economies of scale in fabric production. It really doesn't make sense for any investor now to open up a significant production base in Cambodia for textile production. So they would be better off trying to serve the Cambodian market from Vietnam or from China, because practically all our competitors have to import raw materials. We don't produce the raw materials. Even Vietnam, that has seen such a huge influx of investors in textile, still only produce 30-35% of what they need locally, local demand, right? They still import 60-65% of the fabric that they need. Only China, the manufacturers that are still in China have the luxury of the full value chain, right? From basically cotton to store you can get in China, but all other countries, including Cambodia, we need to import the raw material. So that's really my take on this. We're not going to have we don't have a textile producing industry yet. Then certainly you talk about more whether other textile research, you're not going to have. If they cannot feed in their country, why sell? They don't sell to Cambodia. We don't import from Vietnam. We import from China. That's the whole point. Vietnam doesn't even produce enough for their own production, for their own need. We don't buy fabric from Vietnam. We buy most of our fabric come from China, and it's the same situation for Myanmar. It's the same situation for even, like I said, 65% of fabric that is used in Vietnam is still coming from external sources, and the majority definitely comes from China. That's global, right? You can't get away from that. Yeah, we import. I know. I don't know if you know the statistics. We don't really import from Vietnam. 65% from China, 15% from Taiwan, 15% from South Korea. That's the makeup of our imports of fabric.
But essentially, the textile, because the topic started from the textile industry, right? The textile industry is another sort of animal from the garment making industry, right? From the garment manufacturing sector. The textile industry requires immense investments, as well as have a relevant impact on environment. Therefore, probably it's the only one that can afford to be relatively self-sufficient, and probably in the luxury market they are not. It's China. The other countries are all of them dependent on China for everyday material. When it comes to luxury materials, probably technical material is USA, luxury material is Europe, but that's it. And Vietnam is, how to say, trying to compete in the small scale in this big world. I agree with Ken. I don't think that makes any sense, also because they are not labor intensive, they are machine intensive, and they are rather resource intensive industry. Therefore, if there are more questions, open questions, more technology also mean less human capital in working process. In order to keep their job, workers have to update their skill. We already spoke about it, but those who don't, we will be provided with training program by the factories which they are working. Is this that 4.0 purpose? Actually, is not that. The 4.0 is probably a process that the industry has to embark to survive in general. Because if they are not going to be competitive from the technology point of view, then there will be always the cheaper country next door where to go. And therefore the workforce that will stay in this sector will have to necessarily transform, as we said before. Any other questions or other open topics that our audience wants to raise? Yeah, there is one more topic. Is there any country where we should look at in terms of how to say, experience or fostering technology or enabling the factories to have more advanced machinery, or etc.? In your opinion, Pierre?
I mean, I don't have like a very 100% certain answer to that. India is definitely India, Sri Lanka. There are countries that are definitely innovating, because also we know that there is a large population of developers in India. So there is like everybody, a big manufacturing workforce and a big development, I mean, IT workforce. So this is a perfect combination to see innovation arise. So that would be more from a development standpoint. But then in terms of, if we're talking about automation, robotics, and things like that, there is a lot of initiatives now in Europe or in the US with all this effort for reshoring. You know, they've been talking a lot about that, especially because of COVID, bringing the manufacturing back closer to the retailing countries, right? So there are definitely, and when we're in Europe, we saw a lot of these automated factories or machines that can work on their own. Obviously, bringing manufacturing back to Europe, considering the salaries, it's not imaginable to put people in these factories. So this is probably where we will see robotics happen, or some kind of initiatives in that direction, less in countries like Cambodia or in Southeast Asia in general.
Yes, in fact, I wanted to share a video from a Sri Lankan company. And then after, I would like to have a comment, a small comment, if possible, of what His Excellency Soem Nara thought of this entire discussion. I'll share my screen now.
That's Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and Ethiopia, most recently. The challenge we face today is we're unable to identify where defects lie at the needle point. We look at a 98 to 99% entitlement in order to deliver value and profits. Anything else is waste.
But in the past, the group relied on manual reports to make decisions. This time-consuming process meant that the decision-making and corrective action on quality issues was often delayed. It also meant that a significant amount of resources was spent on rework. Hydro Money needed shorter response times and real-time visibility into their production quality. We saw an opportunity to leverage technology to help them improve and develop a cloud-based quality management solution.
Yeah, the reason why I shared this video from this Sri Lankan company is that they have a very, very interesting product that basically similarly to what what Pierre was saying, the product developed in Cambodia is doing, but was developed by a factory, and therefore what they have done is that they included into the platform and the managing of the software the maintenance of the machine, the breakdown timing of the machines. Therefore, they are able to make an advanced maintenance program of the machines. They are able to basically predict their breakdown time of their machines. They are able to know how fast their mechanics are fixing their machines, and they are able to essentially to have a better maintained fleet of sewing machines, together with the control of the defects under production in real time. I think this is very much possible in Cambodia as well. And I very much think that the developers are there in Cambodia. I met them personally. Joseph no, Pierre no. We know very well they are out there. They are young, educated Cambodian software developers that are incredible. And I think it's just a matter of a good entrepreneurship to put down their foot. Excellency Soem Nara.
Yes.
I just would like to have a general comment about this entire discussion from your side, and how do you see the future of the sector in general?
Yes, I optimistic for this development in this sector, you know, in terms of the technology development, introducing automation, and you know, finally we use IR technologies in the sectors. Why? Because this is the intentions of our government policies, not only in the garment industry, but other sector as well. We think about the industrial diversification.
Yeah.
Inside of the garment industries, there are many things to do, you know, there are many things to do. In some part that the may not require sophisticated technology, it still need to use manual, to my understanding, you know. So that's why gradually we can introduce these automations and IR 4.0 technology in this sector, not in hurry, step by step, upgrade the skill of the workers as well as the reskill. Why? Because as I mentioned, based on our new investment laws, there is a window of opportunity to given to the investor to reskill and redevelop their employees and their workers, you know, because the law itself, if you extend training program, I mean on the job training or whatsoever, not need to send the worker or employee to do training in the Tibet, just inside the factory to introduce new technology in order to upgrade their skill and improve the productivity and competitiveness of the production, you will have entitled, you know, to receive the intensive of the tax deduction 150%. This is any activity. This is not this is the policy that the government encourage the factories or the owner of the factory to spread their activity in this sector.
Okay.
This is the way that we should sing together, you know, all the stakeholders have to sing together in order to integrate step by step this 4IR technology in the future.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And with this final note, I would also go ahead with our closing remarks by Luisa Gentile from the EuroCham. Please, Luisa, go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me today, and thank you for the very interesting discussion we had around the theme, is the garment industry ready for the 4.0? My name is Luisa Gentile. I'm a CSR project consultant for EuroCham. I've been spending 20 years plus in the telecommunication sector. What I hear today, I'd like to quickly summarize, is that it looks like the garment factory here in Cambodia is really at the beginning of the digitalization process. The industry elsewhere, where I come from, it is like this, is moving forward what we call the fifth revolutionary industry. So we are already in the fifth one, in the personalization human plus machine sector. We talked about metaverse, 3D printed home, cryptocurrency, mobile 5 generation. So we are there. We are already in that phase. So why is that the garment factory seems to be the industry still in the 4.0? It looks like, again, the answer is very strict, and you mentioned a few times during this conversation, the sector is more reluctant to technological innovation because the business model still relies on cheap manual labor costs. So as long as this industry is so much a profit margin driven, we appreciate that we understand the reason why it's taking so long. What are the obstacles? I've heard around the table, first of all, is not a revolution. So when is going to be the 4.0? Because our understanding is that it's more of a matter of when rather than if. It will require a long transition. It's not happening over time. And the transition, the technical transition, meaning the adoption of technology, is just one step along the way, is one of those, but not even the most important. It has been mentioned all along the way, the importance of having skilled workers who can operate the new technology. The demand for technicians that are skilled workers that can operate with the new machinery is really necessary to move towards. And at the same time, is an obstacle that is not helping the transition. You mentioned the cost of electricity. Again, it's undeniable. More automations means more electricity. So Cambodia has one of the highest electricity rates of Southeast Asia. So to stay competitive, this element must be addressed. There was an interesting element I was very happy to hear around the cultural change. So it's not just capacity building, it's not just technology or money, but it's really about cultural changes. You have to drive also the whole sector towards this new approach. We've mentioned that this new technology will provide power to the suppliers. And then the retailers might not have this issue because the relationship will change. They will not be anymore able to control the process, but they will have to share it with the retailer and with the suppliers. And at the other end, the suppliers might be threatened by all this transparency. They show that it's a system, beautiful one, that allows really real time to see the progress, but transparency can be also an issue. So helping the industry into appreciating the plus of this new technology is as important as building the infrastructure. So what are the solutions, the opportunities? Hearing what has been said around the table, there is definitely no one size fits all. You need to create an ecosystem in Cambodia where this trade-off between cost and benefit has to be addressed. We mentioned the importance of the government. Without the support of the government, definitely to drive this change, things will not move very fast. We've mentioned that there is a national roadmap to promote the digital agenda. We mentioned there is a recently launched a new investment law with incentives for technology, for tax reduction, and also for reskilling the workers. So there is also a need that we hear around the table about providing a safety net for the most vulnerable. And this is where you mentioned possibly the old workers that were not able to catch up. So there must be creative and the need for a safety net possibly between the government and the support of the NGO. Number two, education, definitely. It cannot be left out. It's a long-term process, again, that's required to bring new skills around the table. The reality, the hard reality is that the 4.1 will cause some job losses. We know it, and it's part of the transition. However, it will also create new job opportunities. So what we will need more engineers, IT experts, ICT experts, maybe more vocational trainings. Again, a structure to help workers to be more specialized doing their job. Why not vocational training for garments? I think that could be a wonderful solution. And definitely the universities should provide specialized engineers or technicians within the garment sector. Number three, infrastructure. Whenever we talked about the improvement of the garment sector, infrastructure was there. From the traditional one, transport, logistics, price for energy, we say that clear policy for renewable energy. Again, a clear agenda on this matter. And also we mentioned before, we need a good 5G network to support the data. Because remember, the 4.0 is not just about automation, it's about a massive usage of data. And if we don't have an infrastructure that allows those data to navigate, of course, that would be an obstacle. Last but not least, bottom line is going to be a decision driven by the economic factors. If the needed investment is too high, of course, reluctancy will be there. It's an expensive technology. 4.0 is an expensive technology. We can't deny it. And there must be a return on investment. And we need to figure it out what that would be, because there is a heavy equipment. We heard all the things that needs to be done, training, equipment, adjustment, cultural adjustment, change. So there must be a solution. There must be a trade-off that allows the factory and all the ecosystem to take the lead. Allow me to conclude with this sentence that says, this is a new world. It is not the big fish which eats the small fish. It is the fast fish which eats the slow fish. So sooner or later, we need to catch up in Cambodia too, in order not to be eaten by faster fish. And thank you for having me today.
Oh, such a great sentence to end. Thank you, Luisa. Really.
Thank you. You have anything else to add, Masi? Or...
That's it.
Okay, all right. So thank you, Luisa, Masi, for the moderations, of course, and Excellency Soem Nara for joining us, and of course for staying with us until the end of the webinars. and to the entire panelists for your participation in today's webinar session. Just to inform that the webinar will also be available on EuroCham YouTube channels in the coming days. And to those to our audience who have not been able to join, obviously they will be able to rewatch the discussion again. Last, from EuroCham, I just want to inform that we will be having a breakfast talk next week on the 2022 outlook and updates on beyond regarding the recent updates everyone's know on Ukraine, on COVID-19, and about Southeast Asia as a whole. We will also have a special breakfast talk events on certification. This one will be happening at the Ministry of Land Management, Urban Planning and Construction on the 1st of April. So the information is available on EuroCham website. So feel free to go and share with your networks in case there's any interest in participating to these events. Thank you to all our members who joining EuroCham lately, and of course to our 2022 partners who has been a strong support to EuroCham's sustainability, and of course in joining us in almost all of our activities throughout the year. With that being said, thank you once again, everyone. Have a nice day, and see you on the next EuroCham events. Thank you.
And of course, thank you to Soputika or
Indeed,
Ita, indeed for
team
the organization and the entire team of EuroCham. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.